Hi, everybody. This is Jack Frew from SharePoint Saturday Chicago Suburbs. I'm here with Mark Vogt. Did I say that right?
Love it.
Close enough. Hi, Mark. How you doing today?
Very good, thanks.
Mark, you're doing a session for us called SharePoint-Powered Project Management, an Actual Blueprint. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Mark, why don't you tell us about it?
I've been in SharePoint for the better part of 12 years, and every year that I continue to consult for large corporations and small, I see the same patterns, whether it's in new organizations, seasoned organizations, large, small, foreign, or domestic. A lot of people are not taking advantage of the out-of-the-box functionality that SharePoint brings to the world of collaboration. So what I'm hoping to do inside that 1 hour at the very end of the SharePoint Saturday is give people an actual working blueprint for building a site hierarchy and organizing that site hierarchy in such a way that you can actually start managing projects, or it could be applied even to process management as well. I try to use as much of the core functionality from out-of-the-box SharePoint as possible, but what I will do in that hour is take the entire audience, beginner, intermediate level, and explain to them what SharePoint's original nature was all about. Explain to them what real project management is, how it drives down into individual task management. And once we get our initial building blocks built, then I'll actually start bringing that up and building on it so that people see that even with SharePoint Foundation, they can actually make an incredibly powerful start into a world where they actually start leveraging SharePoint for what it was originally intended, which is managing the actions of groups of people all aligned toward common goals. Once we accomplish that in a very real, very doable way out of the box, I'll start to set the stage where I can explain to people how the next stage, which is promoting visibility by various levels of management into all of those projects, all of those programs, all of those processes, can then be achieved through the use of either customization, third-party tools, or even additional Visual Studio customizations, things like this. But it doesn't need to happen like that. You can use just out-of-the-box functionality and actually start deriving a lot of benefit that impacts every single person in the entire organization, whether you're dealing with projects or whether you're dealing with processes. And that was the original vision of SharePoint way back in around 1999 to 2000. So I'm going to take people back into those basics, really drive home the point of something that they should have been doing all the time, all along that they've had Microsoft SharePoint.
Oh, cool. Hey, Mark, let me ask you. I hear about Microsoft Project Server, which is also integrated with SharePoint. Now, what you're talking about is a little different, right?
Yes, it is. There are a lot of organizations that can afford the price tag that comes with Microsoft Project Server. But this is actually taking a step back and saying, if you don't have that. So again, I had to target my presentation that this is for the beginning intermediate people, the organizations that have SharePoint, have Foundation, they're kicking the tires, or they simply don't have the budget to pay for the CALs, whether it's for Project Server or whether it's for Microsoft SharePoint. But what I'm going to show them is how much mileage you can actually get with the out-of-the-box functionality, and that once you're done with what I'm going to show you, it's actually literally a checklist of things that you can do. You will have built a virtual PMO, a program or a project management office, and your people will start using this solution to actually drive any and all projects, not just IT, so that at the end of, say, a calendar year, you actually have derived so much value out of the license-free version of SharePoint that you've set the stage where you can actually have a justifiable business case for starting to buy some of the additional third-party products like Project Server or any third-party work plan delivery systems for Microsoft project work plans inside SharePoint, things like that. So we're starting free, showing what can be done with it, and then setting the stage where people can start adding on once they grow into that functionality.
Okay, cool. And just for clarity, you're talking this stuff will all work on the free version of SharePoint then, right?
On the free version of SharePoint, yep.
Okay, you can't get any better than that.
Cannot get any better than that.
So, Mark, you sound like you know what you're doing a little bit. What tell us about your background? What got you to this point?
Originally, my background is in aerospace engineering, actually in robotics and control systems. I spent 5 years at Argonne National Lab building a particle accelerator as an engineer. And during that time, in the early mid-90s, I was actually stupefied at how the brightest minds on the planet, guys that are splitting the atom, actually did not know how to work together. And at the end of the 5 years, it became very clear that even though the internet was just in its fledgling steps, there really wasn't a technology that actually lent itself to truly collaborating with people. The only thing that was available was FTP and was email systems, things that allowed you to either move files or to communicate, but that's not collaboration. I found myself stepping out of the world of engineering and going into consulting. A couple of years went by. Suddenly, corporate portals were showing up. That's technologies that actually aggregate a lot of information, a lot of functionality, step in the right direction. But it was when Microsoft came out with SharePoint that you started to realize what their target was. Their original vision was to create these virtual workspaces for nothing more fancy than lists and containers for libraries. And you realize what they were creating was the equivalent of a virtual war room. And when you do start to understand that, you start to understand that really SharePoint was meant for just this kind of collaboration. And the scenarios in which most organizations have virtual war rooms is with projects, important projects. So it suddenly hit me that this is where I wanted to spend actually the rest of my career, was showing people how to leverage SharePoint to get the absolute highest amount of ROI out of it, using the out-of-the-box functionality, and on top of that, not only using the skills of the monks that are inside their organizations, that tiny little handful of monks that every organization has, but actually the basic users, the power users, and the slightly superpower users, how to actually use a distributed and delegated, not administration model, but a development model inside the organization to help build out all of these solutions.
That sounds
and I've
interesting.
been working on that ever since.
Awesome. Hey, now, do I understand, are you in the middle of writing a book as well?
Yeah, actually, I've got a couple of books, one related to SharePoint, one not. The book is actually titled SharePoint Powered Project Management. It's due out in June. It's going to be self-published. It's going to be available on Amazon. The second book is actually a small, like a notebook called Sayings of the Wise Consultant. It actually is a foray into offering the description of an entire universe that a consultant lives in, between the client and the firm, even himself, his family, all of the things in his universe, and then how to actually wade through it for more than 7 years and keep your soul.
Oh, wow. And is that book out now, or is that's another one in the works?
Both coming out in the summer, yeah. They're about 3/4 complete and headed off to the initial editors in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, that sounds great. Do you have any kind of blog or Twitter account, anything people should be following?
Yeah, I've been blogging for actually a very long time, probably 8 years. It's at markvogt.vogtland.ws.
Okay.
You'll find me writing on either SharePoint, on the big picture, on Sayings of the Wise Consultant, or on fly fishing.
Awesome. Well, that sounds great. Hey, Mark, thanks so much for your time.
It was a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care now.
Bye-bye.